Hey everybody, welcome back to Political Science 101, Simmons College. Welcome back to my garage this cold, rainy evening. I want to apologize first and foremost that I haven't been getting these videos out as often as I should have. I am getting you the material you need, both through your reading but also through these videos. Watch the videos, do the reading. You're going to learn what you need to learn in this class. You're going to learn the things that most college students learn in this country on your way to obtaining your bachelor's or your associate's degrees when it comes to political science, American government, and politics. So, that being said, I'll keep the videos coming, and always I'll always adjust the time frames and due dates whenever I'm late, because that's not your fault. So, with that being said, still going to plan on having a quiz assigned this coming Monday, but it won't just be a little 2-minute assignment video. I'll do a little bit of lecture, a little bit of content before assigning the quiz, and then you'll have until Friday. So I'll make the assignment on Monday of next week. You'll have until Friday of next week to get that into me. And at the end of this video, I'm going to mention some extra credit. All of you are doing quite well. Those of you who have turned in your first two quizzes did really well on them, but I still want to give you a chance to boost participation or attendance grades or whatever. I just want to give you a chance to get a few extra points in the class, and I'll talk about that at the end of this video. So make sure and listen to what I say here the next few minutes. Listen to the very end, because I'm going to talk about some extra credit, and don't forget to comment below that you watched the video. With that, let's get into it. The last video, I talked about some things, some services the government provides, and I did a very kind of overview, very high-level examples of some of the big-picture stuff that government, different levels of government provide for the people. And I reminded you that in this government, in this country, in theory, the people are the government. So the idea that government is some big bad machine, political machine off in the Capitol, is not the way the government was supposed to work in this country. It's designed in a way that the voters are the government. But remember, who are the voters? Who is the constituency of elected officials and politicians? And that has changed dramatically over the course of history of the United States. When the country was founded, it was founded by a bunch of landowning white men. You had to be 21 years old, you had to be a man to vote, and predominantly you had to be white. They certainly weren't letting slaves vote. They weren't letting women vote. There were people who were old enough to operate a business and earn a living, but they were not 21 years old, so they weren't able to vote. All those things have changed, legally changed over the years. Is it still easy for everyone to access the polls, to have information, access information on who to vote for, and then actually cast their vote? No, there's still what we call voter suppression in this country. It's still, it's easier for some people to vote than others, depending on who you are and where you live, and that's not good. It's not okay. That's actually illegal. It violates the Constitution. And from now until until the end of the semester, we're going to talk quite a bit about the Constitution. Why? Because, as I said earlier in the class, the Constitution is the ultimate law of the land. There's a hierarchy of laws in this country, and the United States Constitution is the highest law. It is the highest governmental law, governmental set of rules in this country. Every other type of law, state laws, federal laws, local laws, everything, including other federal laws, are below the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the United States. Well, what's in that Constitution? That's what I want to talk about today. Just a very, very preliminary discussion about that, because the last video I talked about some things the government does do. What does government not do? What are things that government does not do? Well, what about individual rights and liberties? I think most of you, I'm sure all of you, know that we have freedom of speech and freedom of expression in the United States. You probably know that. You probably also know that it's guaranteed by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. What does that mean, freedom of speech? Does that mean that I can say whatever I want about anybody and anything at any time? What about freedom of expression? Does that mean that I can do whatever I want, no matter who it affects? And the answer, of course, is no. No. There are limits on all of the rights guaranteed in the Constitution. And most importantly, um, the legal rights that we have as people living and residing in the United States, those are rights against government encroachment, government, federal, state, or local government, infringing upon your liberty, your ability to do what you want to do, to live your life, to take care of yourself and your family, to be part of your community, and just to live your life how you want to live it. So when someone says they have a legal right to something, like I have a legal right to free speech, again, does that mean that I can just say whatever I want to about, I don't know, about Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Can I just get on Facebook and say anything about them? No. No. What's cool about the First Amendment is that it means if the laws are actually enforced in this country, it means that if I get on Facebook or Instagram and I say something negative about Donald Trump, even though he's the president of the United States, it's against the law for the United States government to come after me, to try to punish me, to try to charge me more in taxes, or try to take my land from me, or try to get me fired from my job, or try to slander me, or discredit me in some way, just because I said something they didn't like. That's important. That's important because not every country has that right. So one thing the government does not do, though, is get involved in enforcing that stuff with other people, person to person. Let me tell you what I mean. If I take a job, let's say my job at Simmons College, I was required to sign a faculty agreement when I started working at Simmons College, and it didn't. I want to be very clear. It did not say this, but I'm just hypothetically. What if it said that employees of Simmons College are not allowed to express their political views on social media? No, they didn't say that. Simmons College does not have that rule about professors. But what if it did say that? Is that the same as the government trying to censor me and take away my right to free speech and free expression? No. Now, can Simmons do that? That's a whole different legal question. But it's not the same as the government saying I can and can't say something. And that's a very important distinction. There are things the government does not do. There are things the government does not do. So that's one thing I want you to take away from this video today is that the rights, we'll talk a lot more about individual rights and liberties for the rest of the semester. Right to bear arms. Right against search and seizure. You have a right not to self-incriminate. That's the Fifth Amendment. We'll talk about several more. But it's really about protecting the people from the government. So theoretically in this country, the government is the people, and the people are the government. That's not really how it works in practice. I mean, other than paying my taxes and voting every couple of years, do I really feel like I'm part of the government? No. For me, the government is, I don't feel like, I'm not a government employee, so I don't feel like I'm part of the government. Am I? I guess it depends on your perspective. Depends on your perspective on that, but these rights that are guaranteed to us by law, by the Constitution, that's about protecting the people from their own government. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing is, and I hope I don't offend anyone's politics here, because this is what I'm getting ready to say is controversial and is a topic of a lot of political debate and fights and arguments. But all levels of government, particularly federal and state, provide certain services to people who aren't able to provide those for themselves. Low-income people, disabled people, and other groups of people who, for whatever reason, government has decided to extend services. Things like food assistance, things like WIC, things like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Remember, everyone in this country can get Social Security. They can get it. They're supposed to be able to get it once they reach a certain age, or if they're considered disabled. That's money the government gives you. Now, if you're retired, you might say, yeah, but I paid into Social Security. Yeah, but you gave that money to the government, and they're redistributing it. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. What I'm getting at, though, is the government provides these services, but most of them you don't just get automatically. Some of you may know how hard it is to get enrolled in Medicaid or CHIP, which is like Medicaid but for your kids, for children. There's this idea among some people in this country that government gives these quote-unquote handouts to people who are too lazy to work. Well, I've known quite a few Medicaid and CHIP recipients, and that's not been my experience. My experience has been they do work. They work, or they wish they could work. Or they do work and just don't make that much money. And it is so much paperwork and a bunch of crap they have to go through to get that Medicaid money. And when I say Medicaid money, y'all know that's not like a government check. That is government paying for your doctor's bills. That is government paying for health care, medical treatment for low-income individuals and their children. And one thing the government's not going to do, be it state, local, or federal, and of course Medicaid is a little bit of state, a little bit of federal money, they're not going to hold your hand and lead you onto Medicaid. You got to work hard for that. You got to try really hard to get into that. Same thing for, I'm trying to think of another example. Well, I think government-funded college scholarships are another example of that. I mean, they don't just give that to people. You got to do a lot of paperwork. You have to prove that you're worthy, that you meet the government's guidelines, that you, quote-unquote, deserve it. So the idea that government just gives things to people, I've known a lot of people that have received money from a lot of government programs, and I wouldn't call one of those people lazy. I wouldn't call one of those people undeserving. If anything, I'd say it's a broken system that the government's trying desperately sometimes to pick up the little pieces of a broken system because people can't have fundamental things they need to survive, like food and health care. And don't forget education. Not just college, but also primary and secondary education. That's your grade school, kindergarten through 12th grade. So, if you disagree with what I'm saying, because this is not, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, I'm not here to preach a sermon. I'm here to give a lecture on American government and politics. But if you disagree with what I'm saying, let me know in the comments, or if you're really offended, let me know. Contact me directly, and we'll talk about it like adults. But there is a conception among a lot of people in this country that the government is this big machine that bestows taxpayers' money onto people who didn't work for it, and that's just not true. I mean, it's a mischaracterization that politicians have been using for over 100 years in this country to get you to vote for them or get you to vote against their opponent. So don't listen to that kind of garbage. Make up your own mind. When it comes to voting, which we have early voting, real early voting for the first time ever in Kentucky, or first time in decades in Kentucky this year. And if you haven't done early voting or mail-in voting, you can also vote this coming Tuesday. You can vote early in person, or you can vote Tuesday in person if you haven't already voted. So learn about the politicians. Just use the internet a little bit. Learn about them. Don't just believe the garbage that you hear. Learn about the people that are on that ballot. Learn about the people on that ballot. And if you live in Louisville, flip the ballot over, because the backside has some other things that I won't get into on this video, but I'm telling you there's some things on the other side of the ballot that like the actual physical other backside of that paper ballot, there's some things that that you should see and you know, make a decision and vote on those things as well. So, a lot of things government does, a lot of things government doesn't do. And this has just been, again, a very high level kind of overview, almost an oversimplification, because I mentioned a couple things in the last few minutes, things like Medicaid and CHIP, that I could personally teach a whole semester just on that. And it'd probably put most of y'all to sleep, but you know, for me, I could do a whole semester on that. I could also do a whole semester on government funding of education and how that works and how politicians hold that over our heads every election year. It's a messy system we have, but we do have a legal right to take part in it. Everyone? No, not everyone. Not all of our immigrants. Some immigrants, but not all of them. Every native-born United States citizen? No, because you lose your right to vote in this country when you have a felony conviction. Now, in Kentucky, if you have a nonviolent felony conviction, there is a process to get that right to vote back, but that's not a simple process either. They don't make it easy. But government's going to make you work a little bit to take part in it. So this idea that I know I learned about for sure when I was in grade school, social studies class in middle school and high school, this idea that government is by the people, for the people. It depends on which people you're talking about, doesn't it? There are things government does, and there are things government doesn't do. And is the government truly made up of the people? Is it by the people, for the people? Well, in the long run, that's up to us. So don't forget that. And I'll be talking to y'all again on Monday. And I owe another email to at least a couple of y'all, and you know who you are. I owe you some information, and I have not forgotten, and I'll get that to you. So thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to comment on the video below that you watched it. If you have any questions, I've got a little backlog, but then I caught up today on some of those older questions from those comments. So we can definitely follow through. And then there's even older comments from several weeks ago about related to police and injustices and Breonna Taylor and so forth. And I'll get to those in the next couple of weeks because we're going to get into that civil liberties and rights and what the police can and cannot do in this country to the people in this country, regardless of race, gender, etc. So anyway, more on that next week. I'm also going to assign the quiz on Monday. Oh, and before I forget, extra credit. If you all want some extra credit, either through email or through Canvas, either one's fine. Send me the answer to this question. I want to know the name of your state representative. Your state representative. I'm telling y'all, it sounds easy, but a bunch of y'all are going to get this wrong. If you actually submit it to me, you're going to get it wrong. Everyone has only one state representative. This is not your United States representative. This is your state representative. If you live in Kentucky, this is the person who represents you in the Kentucky House of Representatives at the state capitol in Frankfort. I know at least one or two of y'all live in West Virginia, so you have a state representative in West Virginia. You just have one. Everybody's got one. If any of y'all live in Southern Indiana, same thing. State representative. That's all I need. The name of your state representative. And as some of y'all know, I work in that kind of state politics kind of arena when I'm not teaching at Simmons. So I'm going to know if you write down a name of somebody or you send me a name of somebody that's not, I don't even have to look it up. I know whether that is or is not a state representative. And if you're in West Virginia or some other state, just mention that to me and I'll make sure and look it up. But if you live in Kentucky, you live in Louisville, I know all those state representatives. So I know another name. This is for 10 points on your quiz. If you make 100 on the quiz, I'll give you 110 and I'll average it into your final grade that way. But I know a couple of y'all did really well, but not quite as well as you wanted in the last quiz. Well, chance to get 10 points. 10 points on the quiz. That's a lot. That's a lot. The name of your state representative. If you have any questions about the assignment, feel free to contact me. Hope to get some extra credit assignments from y'all. And everybody, please, for the sake of this country, for the sake of our state, city, our community, but also for the sake of you and your families and friends. Please, please go vote. I'll talk to y'all in a few days.